Well, the thing is, you guys got to help me on that because if we're just talking and we're into something deep, I just can't all of a sudden be the guy. Hey, party's over. Everybody get the fuck out. Like it just doesn't.
Okay, I'll just say shut the fuck up and let's get on something else. It's the government worker in me. I can't help it.
On this episode of the John 1911 podcast, the alien pistol, congressional gun privileges, 50 BMG Ricochet, another Jeffrey Epstein story.
Okay, good morning, everybody. This is Danny, Marky, and Freeze, and this is episode 202 of the John 1911 podcast, and we are already rip-roaring and rolling today. I had to basically shut everybody up so we could go ahead and get this thing started on recording. So it's old men on the last episode. Old men talked about pants. On this episode, let's start off old men talking about weather. So, Freeze, did you get snow in your part of town last night?
Yeah, I mean, we got a little bit. I mean, my deck's got maybe, I don't know, inch and a half on it. My driveway's got maybe half an inch, 3/4 of an inch, but the ground's warm, and, the deck's going to hold the snow more than the driveway. So,
sure.
I mean, we got a little bit,
This is probably the first, I would say, appreciable snow we've gotten here in Cincinnati this year. Is that a fair statement?
No, that's a very, very fair statement. I mean, we've had some flurries where we've had dustings and stuff, but, this is the first time we've had any kind of, I guess I call it real accumulation. Not that it's much.
Yeah. So, Danny,
yes, quite a bit, and the driveway needed to be shoveled, and I kept toasting my wife as she was out there shoveling it, giving her attaboys, and it didn't.
Wow!
Wow!
Well, I don't have the use of one of my hands, remember? So
that's right. See,
right.
But look, I mean, it's.
She wasn't a happy camper when she came in.
I mean, I'm thinking you could have picked up the pace and kind of at least went out there, with a hot cup of chocolate or coffee to kind of keep her company.
Well, hold on. Here's the thing. I finally have an idea for a fundraiser, and I can come up with a use for one of these things. These pop up on firearms social media from time to time. I don't ever want anything to do with them. The little kind of baloney, dorky flamethrower things. But honestly, since Danny's down to one hand because he had hand surgery, he could use one of those flamethrowers to kind of clear his driveway. Be out there with one hand,
Well, I mean that would be great for Danny, but like a month from now, for me, I mean, I wouldn't even be able to use the flamethrower.
Well, Marky, that would depend on if Mrs. Danny could hold the backpack with the cylinders or not.
No, these things are they're man portable. They don't hold that much. These are little bougie kid toys they sell that they're probably about the size of like.
Hold on, Danny. You're saying you're going to put the backpack on your frail wife while you work the trigger? Oh man, you're horrible.
It all depends on if I seen Marky do that trigger pull, and if he could adjust the trigger to her dexterity and strength, then yeah, probably.
Again, you're blowing it off on her. Wow, you're a horrible human being.
Danny's working very hard to ruin Christmas, and it's still January of 2021. Okay, let's get moving on here a little bit. Let's talk about something that's I think is pretty interesting. And we decided, we were very politics heavy, obviously, the past couple of probably 6 weeks or so, but we need to get some more gun stuff in. Well, with everything that's been going on in Washington, there's been a development that has not really been discussed in the way that I'm going to approach it today. Have you guys noticed that there's been more and more stories and discussions on Capitol Hill about members of Congress carrying guns? Have you noticed that?
I mean,
yes.
I've heard some stuff about it. I think there was I could be wrong, a House member that was like stopped at the security checkpoint, because he had a firearm, and
Yes.
But
So
but
there's been a couple things that happened. So here's the thing. So there's, the farms that there's this woman, her name is Bobert, I believe. And she's, she's a freshman member of Congress. She's the woman that had the restaurant where they walked around carrying guns all the time on their hip. I think out in Colorado, maybe.
oh yeah. Okay, I remember
So
her.
she was elected to Congress, which is good for her. I mean, we need more of those people in there.
Yes,
And
we do.
so and after the riots on Capitol Hill, they've changed some of the security at the inside the building. So they always had checkpoints to get inside the building, but what they've now done is they have put up, at least on the House side, they've put up checkpoints to go into the chambers. And so members of Congress have to go through these metal detector checkpoints inside the building. And I guess they've never had to do this before. And two things came up. Number one, there was a member of Congress who was stopped. He was carrying a gun at the metal detector, and they're like, "You can't bring." He's like, "Yeah, I'm a member of Congress." They're like, "You can't bring it in." And eventually, he went back and secured it in his office somewhere. And the person that was caught at the metal detector was not this Bobert woman. And then these are all separate stories. When the members of Congress were all hunkered down in various parts on Capitol Hill, when they were trying to, when people were coming into the buildings,
Yeah.
there was a member of Congress who stated, "A bunch of people around me were pretty damn happy that we had our guns on us."
That's interesting.
And what it is that this whole story is super interesting because what's finally happening in Washington, D.C. and on Capitol Hill, and mind you, when I say Washington, D.C. and Capitol Hill, they're two completely different jurisdictions, is what the rest of us have been dealing with, the rest of the country, for close to 15 years. You can't have supposedly you can't have a gun in certain areas, but then you can. Can members of Congress legally carry a gun? It's like, well, they're kind of sovereign. I mean, they, supposedly the sergeant of arms and they say you can't do certain things, but members of Congress have a lot of leeway. For example, I do question if a member of Congress was driving a car in Washington, D.C., and they were pulled over by Metro D.C. police, and they had a firearm on them concealed, I do not know if they could arrest that person. Even though it would be illegal if they didn't have a permit to carry a gun in Washington.
Yeah, you know what? That's very interesting. It really is, because as a member of Congress, you do have certain privileges that the average person doesn't have.
Well, a
lot of people may not like that, but it's true.
Well, so we have to go back into the argument of why does D.C. exist, okay? Because it's like this whole argument, like these people that live in D.C., like, Muriel Bowser, I think she's the mayor, and these people are like, we need to make D.C. a state so we can have representation, and, it's like, no, if we need to make D.C. a state, we can just give you back to Virginia. The reason D.C. exists is because the founding fathers of this country at the time were very worried, and other states were worried, that, okay, if you put the capital where they've decided to put the capital, which turns out to be swampland kind of between Maryland and Virginia. Okay?
Yes, I believe half of it was Maryland, half of it was Virginia, if you look at the old borders, state borders.
Yeah, it's close, because there's, the Arlington's right across the river. Anyone's been in D.C., so you kind of figure out this stuff.
Yeah.
Well, the other colonies, or the other states, I guess they weren't colonies then, they were states, the Confederation of States, were worried that that any state that housed the national seat of power would have an undue amount of influence on the rest of the other states. Additionally, members of Congress, the federal government, were worried. They didn't feel that it was smart, because we have a federalist system where that any right or rule that isn't outlined in the Constitution automatically defers to the states. Well, they didn't want to have conflicts of interest where, like the governor of Virginia could do something if he or she didn't like something that the federal government was doing to fuck with people in the federal government because these people are in his state. So they carved out this little area, and that's why the District of the District of Columbia exists.
Well, and they learned that as a hard lesson during the Revolution, when the Continental Congress, was located in New York at one point, Philadelphia at another point, and they learned the fallbacks of that, and they decided that this area of the central powers of the government needs to be in its own little separate entity and not affiliated with any one of the other 13 states at the time.
The people that wrote the Constitution that ratified in 1789, most of them, all of them really, had lived through the Revolution. So, in the 1770s. So,
I always thought it was because they burned the first one, so they moved it.
No, the War of 1812, when the Brits came back, they burned Washington where it is now. But they did, like, the Continental Congress as the British army. I think there were two armies in the United States, or three, at least two. They would show up in some city, and the Congress would have to flee.
Yeah, when the British took over New York, they fled to Philadelphia. Obviously, when the British take over a particular area, the Continental Congress has to move. They can't stay.
Yeah, but it's interesting. But to get back to the point in hand with Washington, these gun issues are finally starting to come, becoming ripe, as the Supreme Court would say. And I do wonder if, even though the left is not inclined to be interested in gun rights, I think a lot of people are realizing that, that never would have normally worried about such things. Like, even let's say you're a leftist, okay, and you're convinced that Donald Trump was going to put you in some kind of camp. It's like, okay, whatever. I think that you as a leftist have every right to have a gun to defend yourself against Donald Trump.
Sure.
Of course you do. And it's like, so it's interesting now because now there's been riots on the right and riots on the left, and now there's been riots and violence in D.C. Really, there were riots and violence in D.C. the day Trump was inaugurated, which has been memory hold.
But that's been widely ignored by
we call that the memory hole. It's like, what? What am I talking about? So, but, it's like now all these people that have surreptitiously been carrying guns because they can get away with it, by virtue of their status, because they're more equal than the rest of us, are now having issues. You're a member of Congress running around Washington, 435 members of the House, and then, 100 members of the Senate, especially the Senate. You get away with a fair amount. And it's like, well, all of a sudden now it doesn't matter that you're the majority leader, minority leader, the whatever, you're on House Ways and Means Committee, you're standing there at a metal detector with somebody who may not even recognize who you are, and you're having to explain why you have a gun on you. And it's like, I think that's a good thing for the country.
No, it really is, because honestly, they need to feel the pain we've been feeling.
Yes.
Yeah, when you get down to brass tacks, that may actually, it probably won't make that much of a difference, but if one or two members on the left look at this and go, okay, I kind of see where the other side's coming from, that's a win.
Well, either that or the people in D.C., the elected types, they feel entitled and they have some form of a diplomatic immunity to where they can do what they want. But I also agree with Marky and Free's theory that maybe it will wake them up. But you have to take the entitlement mindset out of them also.
Well, because what it is, it's the idea of the spirit of the law versus the letter of the law. And the reality is, you, me, and the regular suckers out here in America, we have to abide by the letter of the law. But members of Congress are walking through life as more equal. And I'm going to
But
make a point here. I'm going to make a point here just to prove the point. So during the run up to Biden's inauguration, okay, uh, airlines flying into Washington D.C., Reagan or the other one up there, and what they did is most of them instituted arbitrary restrictions. And they weren't completely unfounded, but the airlines basically like, okay, for the next like 30 days or 20 days or 10 days or whatever it's going to be, we're not going to allow any checked firearms on any flights inbound to Washington, because everybody was, they were like, we just, all these people flying in here, there's problems. Mind you, we've been seeing flights of Antifa people flying all over the country. People were reporting this. I was on an airplane flying into whatever, and like there was a thing scheduled, and all these people were on this plane looking like they were ready to go to war and burn half the country down because they were Antifa people flying around. Well, they started limiting people's rights to bring guns into the airport, and it can affect you in two ways. I know a guy professionally. He's a firearms industry professional, and there are a lot of firearms industry companies that are based in Virginia. And the reason they're based in Virginia is because it's basically Washington, and they're defense contractors, and so they fly in and out of that airport all the time. And I know this guy. He was on the West Coast doing his job with all of his guns, and he flies into Washington because it's his closest airport, and he booked this months ago, and he was having a hard time flying home because they were like, yeah, you can fly home, you have a ticket, but you can't check any of your guns. And like some of them are machine guns, and he's there. They was just like the best they would offer him at the time. They said, well, we'll fly you to North Carolina, and then you can rent a car and drive your home in basically in the suburbs of Washington. But the other question is, during this time when guys like him were getting jammed up, do you think if Senator Rand Paul from Kentucky, wanted to get on a flight to fly into Washington and he was checking a firearm, do you think they would have told him no? Maybe somebody at some airport who didn't know who he was would have told him no, but it wouldn't have taken too long for somebody to be like, yeah, you're fine.
And I excuse me, I agree with that. I really think that in your example, the scenario you put forth, I think Senator Rand Paul would have been able to fly into D.C. and retrieve his firearm and go on his business as usual. I firmly believe that. Now maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they'd be like, well, we don't really give a shit who you are. These are the new rules. But I don't know. I just in my heart feel that he would have got a pass.
Probably. And that's an example of some people are more equal than others. And this is the way Washington has always worked.
Yeah.
And it's good now that a lot of people are feeling the pain.
No, I totally agree. I mean, I'm glad they're feeling the pain.
well, Marky, did you see on the other side to where some Democrat House members are openly stating how members of their own Congress they fear for their lives against them?
Sure. I
Yeah.
saw that. They were like, I know that. I guess there was another example of the story. Supposedly there were people in Congress that are always carrying guns, and I guess they were hunkered down in various areas. And so this, of course, it's the normal suspects. They're like, oh my God, I'm sitting in this place and I'm looking across, and I know this guy's a MAGA guy, and oh my God, I think he has a gun on him. I don't feel safe. And so I left and I went to another part because I was so afraid that he was going to put on his whatever and get us all. And it's just like, wow, and the argument that they're making basically is I'm afraid.
Well, and a lot of those arguments, and this is the honest God truth. Most of the people are making the argument that they're afraid for political points Because the
Yes.
truth is, I guarantee you, they were not afraid. I mean, they might have been afraid because people were trying to get into the Capitol building, but they weren't afraid of any other member of Congress with a firearm. What they're doing,
It's an addiction to victimhood, and
yeah,
here's the thing: the left or the right does it as well, because victimhood. Everyone says, well, yeah, your facts don't care about your feelings, and it's like, well, that's true. Until all of a sudden you find somebody on my side of the political spectrum who's throwing the victim card because he or she can't believe, oh my God, I'm so offended.
well,
And it's like, okay, whatever. Shut up.
this circles around to one of the greatest phrases that I've ever heard from the boxer Mike Tyson. And we've said this before. Mike Tyson once said in an interview, "Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face."
Yeah.
And that's what this is. A lot of these people on the left in Congress, due to the storming of the Capitol building or whatever, they've been punched in the face. Now, maybe not hard. It might have been just a little love tap, but still, they're like, oh wow, hold on a second. Now we're not omnipotent anymore. We actually had to hunker down, like little Donnie in his bunker. I mean, they,
Oh yeah, that's a good point because members of Congress are so pissed off about everything that happened up on Capitol Hill, and rightly so, rightly so. But those same people were on social media laughing when the Secret Service was afraid that Antifa was going to overrun the White House. They literally, they were like, this could get bad, and they moved him to the bunker that one night,
yes.
and they all laughed.
They all laughed at him. Oh, little Donnie's hiding in his bunker. They all made fucking fun of him. But
Yes, they
now,
did.
but now, you get these people attacking the Capitol building. Yeah, they're hiding in their bunker too. Well, they didn't have a bunker, but you know what I mean.
Actually, no, they do.
Do they really?
Do. Yep. Since
Oh.
9/11, there are. Well, let me think about this. Hold on. Should I be professional here? Okay, let me say this. Congress has. There's a bunker on Capitol Hill. It's secret, but it's not. I mean, everyone knows it's there. And what it was a realization after 9/11 that if an airplane is going to be coming at Capitol Hill, which is pretty easy to see because it's on a hill,
Yeah.
there's no way they could evacuate 535 people and all their staff, which would be thousands of people, and get them off the hill or like move them. So they actually, the Bush administration under the for the war on terror, they spent big money and they built a giant bunker on site. Now there is an off-site bunker. There is an off-site location as well, and then there's an alternative site that's more for like for like if there's a nuclear war. But there is an on-site facility that's hardened that can take a hit from an airplane.
Well, but my question is this on-site bunker big enough to hold both houses of Congress?
Yes.
Because as far as the staff goes, well, hey, you know what? They're plane fodder. But,
yes, it is. It's actually yes, it is. It's big. Yeah, it's big.
Okay.
They did it when they supposedly remodeled and revamped a lot of these security areas to like because if anyone has been in the Capitol,
so basically you're saying it's like a mini Greenbrier. Is it the Greenbrier that's got the bunker underneath?
well,
it?
that's been out of service since the Clinton administration.
No, yeah, I know that.
Yes,
but
they
I mean,
built that. They built that during.
Marky, so they say it's out of service.
It's out of service.
No, it is.
Well, the reason it's out of service is because Russian nuclear weapons have become accurate enough that when they built it during the Eisenhower administration, it sits between mountains, and so unless you land a missile right on it, it would probably survive. And but now the stuff's become so accurate, and they realized it got out. That was announced during the Clinton administration about 97. There was a story written on it, and they declassified it in 97. And so they feel like the Russians probably had known about it for a while. And so and actually that goes into the that goes into even some of the differences, changes the government's made. Like Cheyenne Mountain in Wyoming will not survive a direct hit. That's
I've
why
heard
they
that.
moved. That's why they moved it, when 9/11 happened. Like you see the movie War Games.
Oh yeah,
Like they're
yeah,
all in
yeah.
Cheyenne Mountain. They moved a lot of that. They still have the mountain, and they still had some facilities in the mountain, but they moved a lot of it out because the reality is everybody knew where the mountain was, and the weapons have become so powerful and so accurate they could drop weapons right on that mountain, and it wouldn't survive a direct attack.
Well,
And
you know what?
actually, go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
Well,
No,
there's
go
one
ahead.
more.
Finish
There's
your.
one more. The White House is actually they made changes for the White House too because there are obviously underground facilities at the White House. They're classified. No one really knows. I mean, a lot of people know. I don't really know how extensive it is, but I do know that until I don't know, it was in the 2000s. There was a military unit that was based in Pennsylvania, and they were like a search and rescue and excavation, unit. Like they did, like heavy rescue, like heavy rescue. And what their job was after a nuclear strike on Washington, their job was to go to the White House and dig out the president. Well, they shut that unit down, and the thinking is the reason they shut it down is because the nuclear weapons from our adversaries are accurate enough and powerful enough that if they could drop them right on the White House grounds because their CEP is so tight that there's no point there's no one to dig out.
Yeah. Well, what I was going to say when we were talking about Cheyenne Mountain. In 1959, an author by the name of Pat Frank wrote a book called Alas Babylon. It's a great book. If anyone wants to read it, it's really good. It's about a global like World War III scenario, and I'm not going to go into the details of the book. But the main character of the book, his brother was in the Air Force and he was stationed at Cheyenne Mountain. And in 1959, Cheyenne Mountain did not survive World War III.
Wow.
That's interesting because this book was written in 1959. Now, maybe he was speculating, maybe the author wasn't, but the truth is, in 2021, we know Cheyenne Mountain would not survive World War III. I mean, it's interesting. But if anyone really wants to read a good book, and it's interesting because the book was written in 1959, so the stuff that you read in that book, opposed to what we know now, really, honestly, kind of holds true today.
I have if the listener wants, I actually, again, we were going to talk about any of this. I have a book I can recommend that's a more modern book that talks about this. And there's what's it called?
Brain Freeze by Marky?
No, it's there's a book. This book was written by Jeffery Lewis, and he works at he's a PhD. He's an arms control guy, and Jeffrey Lewis works out at the Middlebury Institute. They do all they're nuclear weapons experts and non-proliferation people. And he did this book at the beginning of the Trump administration. It's got the book is and it has Donald Trump as president in it because he was able to write it so quickly. Like today, you can write a book in a month and put it on the internet. And that's kind of what he did. So it didn't take years. And it's really interesting. I mean, look, he's an anti-Trumper, and there's a lot of things he doesn't like. But what it did is he's laid out the possibility of how you can do things on Twitter that could lead to war. And he also talked about how, and is very valid, you could do things on on the battlefield, that things happen to people. You as the attacker may know that, like, oh, I'm doing something against North Korea. This is a limited response. But if you're in North Korea and your communications are knocked out and your radars are knocked out and you really can't see what's going on, you just know you're being hit, you may not realize it's a limited, quote, proportional response. You may think this is the big one. And this is basically how it leads into a nuclear exchange between North Korea and United States. And the book is titled like, it's not the 9/11 Commission.
Is that like is it called the 2020 Commission or something
Yeah,
like
you know
that?
what that is. It's called the
I
2020
yeah,
Commission.
it talks. I've heard. I haven't read it. I have not
Mm-hmm.
read it. I will say that, but I heard about it because it talks about the possibility of like a North Korean
Yeah.
nuclear attack, which actually is kind of interesting because the way things were back when Trump took the presidency, that was a strong concern. Not that it's not a concern today, but I've heard of the book. I didn't know the author.
Yeah,
but
and again, Jeffrey Lewis is anti-Trumper, and he takes a few swipes at Trump that are really beneath him. It's like you're reading this book; it's pretty interesting, but then he throws in a few things. You're like, dude, stop it. Now I got one more book to recommend, and we got to get off this.
Okay.
If you are interested in nuclear warfare and you're interested in like what some people were thinking, how certain things would happen, and this one's super interesting. If you want to think. This book was written, I think, in the early 80s, probably 1982, and the book is called War Day because a nuclear war is going to last about a day, and it's crazy interesting what they were thinking would happen or wouldn't happen if there's a nuclear exchange between the Soviet Union and the United States. And and like what happens like a week after, a month after. And this isn't one of those things where it's like the nuclear winter and everybody's like hunkered down, like no, everybody's starving to death. That's not how this works at all. I highly recommend this book if you're interested in it. But I'll tell you what, we gotta keep, because we promised not to do 2-hour podcasts. So
yeah. Okay,
Freeze sent me a message this morning, and I guess he's discovered the FK Bruno pistol. Is that
man?
Is that what you want to talk about?
Yeah, no, it's called the PSD multi-caliber pistol, and it's made by FK Bruno. And I mean, I've never fired one. I've never actually held one, but I've been looking at it. I really like this gun for a lot of reasons.
It looks big to me.
Well, you know what, though? It's not that big. It looks big, but when you compare it to, like, a Beretta 92, a full-size Glock, I mean, a full-size 1911, it's right in the same range as a full-size firearm. It might be
sure? Because to me, it looks like it's as big as the Desert Eagle.
No, it's not. It's really not. I mean, I understand what you're saying. If you look at the profile of it, it looks huge, but it's not really that big. I mean, the barrel length's like 5.3, 5.4, 5.5. It's like 5.5, between 5 and 5.5 inches. It's really not that big. However, what I like about this gun is it fires 7.5 FK, which is a little bottleneck cartridge, which is designed to compete with like short-barreled carbine rifles. It's highly accurate with a lot of penetration power at 100 to 150 yards. What comes with the gun is a barrel that will chamber 10 millimeter and or 40 Smith & Wesson.
So the 5.7 round basically uses a 10 millimeter 40 head.
Yes, it's neck down to that. Yes, and it's got a proprietary mag, and the mag will load the same mag will load 5.7 FK. It'll load 10 millimeter, and it will load 40 Smith & Wesson. So when you buy the gun, it comes with the 5.7 barrel, but you get a 10 millimeter slash 40 Smith & Wesson barrel that you can drop into it. Now, what is optional, which, I mean, it's nice that they do this, but I wouldn't, I mean, if I was going to buy this gun, I wouldn't buy, you can buy an optional 9mm barrel that comes with 2 magazines and a recoil spring. I wouldn't buy that kit because, hey, why do I need this in 9mm, But the fact that it's a 3 caliber, multi-caliber platform is really interesting. And with the 7.5 FK round, you have a very accurate pistol that'll shoot 100 to 150 yards with a lot of penetration power. And I don't know, this wouldn't work too much in the United States because this is a Czech designed firearm, but they do. It does come with a shoulder, or it, you can. I'm sorry, it does not come with a shoulder brace. You can purchase a shoulder brace so you can steady it. But if you do that here in the U.S., you've got to, there's all kinds of
SBR it.
bullshit.
So
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, Freeze, I have a question for you that I don't understand. You say it shoots 7.5, 10, and 40 Smith and Wesson.
Yes.
Do you think maybe the reason they're marketing something like that is because of ammo supply and demand, and those are more readily available?
No,
yes.
this gun came out prior to
Well,
the ammo shortage.
well, hold on now. Wait a minute. The reason they're doing it is because 7.5 whatever. This is a proprietary round,
Yes.
and you may not be able to get that round, but you can get
Yes.
9mm, or you can get 40, and you can get 10.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Exactly. And that's why they're throwing that in there, because most people, excuse me, I don't know what 7.5 FK ammo costs. I
I
have
don't
no
think
clue.
anybody
I haven't
does.
looked into it. But if you can't find it, or if you feel it's too pricey, you can always shoot 10 or 40 through it because they include that barrel. So I mean,
I'm gonna go out. I'm gonna go out on a limb here, and I'm gonna venture a guess. I have not looked up any of this, but I would not be at all surprised. This is pre-ammo run, pre-ammo shortages.
yes.
I would bet you the 7.5 ammo is probably close to $2 a shot.
You know what? I'm not even going to argue that point
So
with
it'd be
you. It very well could be.
$100 for a 50 box round. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
telling you, it's just like,
Yeah.
yeah.
No.
I mean, like,
Yeah. No. I have no doubt that you're wrong on this. I mean, it's a boutique ammo. It's probably, if you can even find it, it's going to be expensive. I get that.
so Freeze, have you looked at the because one of these just popped up here locally. I don't know how to say it. They were calling it the Alien pistol. The company that makes it is
Lago
Log.
Arms.
What's it called?
It's called Lago Arms.
Lago
They're,
Arms.
again, another company based out of Czechoslovakia. I'll tell you what.
Czech Republic. Czech
Or well,
Republic.
what? Whatever.
What? No, there's no whatever. The Czech Republic and Slovakia are two separate countries. Donald Trump's wife would definitely agree with me because she's from Slovakia, not Czechoslovakia.
Hey, she's a failed first lady, so let's not bring her in.
Oh, stop.
No, okay. No, I'm joking. But look, I was not familiar with the Alien. I mean, I had heard of it. It came out at SHOT Show this year. I had heard of it, but I wasn't real familiar with it. But after you mentioned it, I looked into it. And I'll tell you what, I like this. I like the Lancer Systems is kind of like the sponsor here in the U.S. So,
Yeah, they're the importer, probably.
yes, exactly. And
That's
it's
the same Lancer that does the magazines? Is that
Yes,
Lancer Systems?
yes,
Okay.
they do magazines and rifles and stuff. I mean, good company.
Is this something that maybe the Biden administration could limit on imports?
Well, I mean,
Probably.
they probably, but the Lancer Lago Arms Alien pistol is it's. Look, I'm not going to get into the entire platform of it, but it's I tell you what. Here's why I like this gun. And if anyone wants to know more detail, just go look it up. I mean, you can.
Larry Vickers
find
has
it.
a very good video on it.
He does. No, and I watched his video. It's good. Look, the Signature Series pistol, and it's a limited 500 gun run. It's $5,000 for the package. Now hold on, Danny. Now you know me. I'm a cheap bastard. I'm a cheap son of a bitch.
Yeah, but
Okay.
you'll ask Marky to get one for the armory.
No, but no. Here's the thing. I think
Exactly what's going on.
I think $5,000 is a good price. Now, the non-signature series, after they run through the 500, is going to be a little cheaper, of course. But here's the thing: this is a low center bore axis pistol. It comes with two. I'm just going to call them two solid top slides. That's not the correct term, but if you watch the video of how this pistol breaks down, you'll understand. The package comes with a holster and everything. Look, if you were getting into competition shooting and you needed a speed gun and you're new to it, you drop $5,000 on this gun, you're competing tomorrow.
Possibly, in
Now,
theory.
now look, but in theory, that's what they designed it for.
That's
now,
what the marketing says.
Yeah. Now, you may not be the best on the range, but if you're going to get into race gun competition, you're going to drop a hell of a lot more than $5,000 on a rig.
Well,
Now,
let me go ahead. Let me help Danny out here. Let me explain something about this gun that makes, because if you are listening to this podcast or you're Danny, you're just thinking about it. It's a gun. It's an expensive gun. It's a pistol, and it's a semi-automatic. Let me give a couple details why this thing is so unusual. So, okay, Danny, obviously a semi-automatic, the slide reciprocates back and forth, right?
Correct.
Correct. Okay. So this gun, visually, the way I can describe it is, if I were going to describe the slide, I'm going to use the phrase upper for a reason. If you imagine the slide on this gun, the top part of the slide stays stationary. So wherever you have sights or red dots or anything, the top of the gun does not move, does not reciprocate. But in the upper section of the slide, there's a lower half that reciprocates below that. So, like, if you're shooting this gun and, you're looking at your sights, the recoil disruption could move your sight picture, but that gun unlocking and cycling and, and all that, that movement is not there. So your ability to track sights, in theory, none of these people have shot this gun. I mean, Vickers has shot it, but in theory, you can it's in theory shoot it faster. Also, because the barrel supposedly sits so low because it's embedded lower in the gun, there's less leverage for it to recoil. But also, what they've done is this gun is not recoil operated. This gun is piston operated. Like the HKP-7. And yes. I got into a lot of trouble on the internet when I started complaining that the HKP-7 is not a service pistol, because I have some experience with this gun, people trying to run it hard. And what it did, so the HKP-7, like the squeeze cocker guns, it's like a staple gun, you squeeze them in the slide, they cycle and the slide fires. Well, in the P7, in the frame, below that slide is a piston. And so gas bleeds off out of the barrel, and it cycles the piston, and the piston cycles the gun. So it's a gas driven gun, not a recoil operated gun. But what happens is that direct gas in that piston gets crazy hot, crazy fast. And on a small little gun like the HKP-7, that means the grip frame gets crazy hot, crazy fast. And you can't hardly hold these guns if you shoot more than maybe a couple mags in them. The Laugo pistol has taken that design and they flipped it. So when I describe the barrel to you and the slide, so like the top of the slide doesn't move because the piston sits up there above the barrel, and the barrel sits down lower, and so the gun is gas operated, but the piston isn't sitting down in the frame. The piston's sitting in the top part of the slide. And I do wonder if that also means that this gun, if you're trying to compete with it, because you're like a USPSA match and you're burning down stages, like a P7 in theory, you wouldn't have enough ammo to do it anyway. But the P7, you would burn your hand off before the stage was over. This alien pistol, I'm curious if all the heat stays up at the top in that slide and not in the shooter's hand. It's super interesting gun.
No, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, and it is interesting, and I don't know anyone who has really played with this gun enough to know the answer to your question. But when you were talking about the top of the slide that stays stationary, the kit the package that you buy has two tops, and this thing breaks down super easy. But one top has an RDS sight on it, and the other one has just standard competition, you can get like 3-dot sights or whatever. It's got irons on it. So, but here's the interesting thing that they said in the video that, and again, this is just what I've heard on the video. I'm not saying it's gospel truth. This is what the manufacturers and the guys from Lancer are saying. And they're trying to sell pistols. So, I mean, maybe it's true, maybe it's not. But they say because of the design of the pistol. So I've got one of these alien pistols. Marky's got an alien pistol. Danny's got an alien pistol. And we're all at the range shooting. And all our pistols are zeroed with the RDS sight. So I can take the top, we'll just call it the top slide. I don't know what the part's called. I can take that off of my firearm, put it on Marky's firearm, and Danny can take his off of his and put it on mine, and then Marky's can go on Danny's, and the tolerances are so tight they should all stay zeroed, even if you flip from gun to gun. That's what they're claiming.
Now I'm gonna throw a half bullshit on that. Like it could, it's like it probably stays really close. Like it's maybe within like a quarter MOA, maybe. But I'm just yeah, maybe I will.
You know what? If you're running steel in a match, is it good enough to knock down plates? I mean,
Well, I have a everyday question for you two gun guys that I fully don't understand. Does the $5,000 price justify that quicker millisecond to get back on target acquisition versus, say, a regular pistol?
no. I mean, no. I mean, here's the thing, Danny. It's if you build a race gun for competition or buy a pre-built race gun for competition, you're going to be in the 5K range, maybe more.
Yeah.
I'm saying is at 5K, and I'm a cheap guy. I don't like to spend money unnecessarily. Marky knows that. We go round and round about this all the time. But here's the thing. I'm thinking for a gun from the factory that's race gun compliant. Maybe it's not the best gun on the range. Maybe it won't win the matches. But I'm just saying, if you want to get into race gun competition, 5K is a pretty cheap price to open a box, and you've got everything you need to do to compete. That's
a couple points I want to make about this. Number one, Danny, this gun supposedly is 5K, but it's we have to be fair here. The real street price of this gun, we don't know if this gun's even going to survive or it's going to make it or be successful, but there seems to be enough interest in it that it's going to do a hell of a lot better than this FK Bruno gun that Freeze was just talking about. But
I agree.
But this gun we're talking about right now is a cased, limited edition, whatever presentation thing, and so it's got all this stuff in it. They fully expect if they sell the Alien pistol as a pistol with two magazines, it's going to be cheaper. It'll probably be a I'm guessing $2,500 pistol. Now, is it worth it? Okay, look, there's two reasons to buy this gun. And there's definitely two reasons. The first one is, most guns made today are the same. I mean, you've got a Browning tilting system, or you can do a rotating barrel unlock system like the PX4 Storm. But like a Glock and a 1911, the action's literally the same. It's a Browning drop tilting unlock system. This Alien pistol uses a piston, like the HKP7 that hasn't been made in 30 years. But
it's been
it's so different that it's like, that's interesting. And
my whole thing with the Alien is once the hoopla dies down and the Signature Series, which is their first run, gets out of the way, and they start bringing in the non-Signature Series packages and that, if the Armory can pick one up down the road for like $3,000, it would be worth it.
Well, I'll tell you what, there is a Signature Edition Alien pistol here locally at a dealer. And I've seen it. I've seen it on the internet. And so I've considered going up there and looking at it and talking to the guy. His official position is it's not for sale because it's to bring you into the store, and it successfully will bring me into his store. I believe everything's for sale, but he would want too much money. It's not worth it.
Everything's for sale for the right price, but if the right price is $7,000 for a $5,000 MSRP pistol, yeah, that's crazy.
But is it worth it? Well, number one, we don't know if this gun's even going to be declared legal in like USPSA or some of these other options. I mean, I'm sure it will be. 2, it's a big pistol. 3, which is fine because race guns tend to be bigger anyway.
Absolutely.
It's the law of diminishing returns, Danny. It's like, because Danny knows a little bit about Lamborghinis. It's like, is there, they're like the, I'm going to use some, like there's a Lamborghini like LP640. I don't know that they don't really make that one anymore, but just for example, that one. And then there's one they've just come out with, or it just hit the U.S. It's a maybe it's
the
a
Aventador.
No, I don't know what it is, but it's like the STX. It's a race. It's a Lamborghini that's a track car. Like it literally. I mean, you could probably drive it on the street, but it's got a roll cage in it. It's got a Recaro racing seats. Like this is a race car. And the reality is, if you're a serious track person or you're actually trying to do something, you're not going to buy the Lamborghini with the leather and all that junk in it and parking sensors and a backup camera. You're going to buy the race one that's lightweight, stripped down, has a stiffer suspension, that sucks to drive on a pothole, or a brick road or like a fancy neighborhood. But as a track weapon, it's a great car. This Laugo, this alien pistol is a track weapon.
So would it be categorized more as a specialty, novelty?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a good chance this gun won't even survive. And
no, but on the flip side of this gun not surviving, I do think it's a boutique novelty type firearm. But if you pick the Signature Series firearm up for the MSRP of $5,000, if it doesn't survive, I think 10 years down the road, this could be a $10,000 firearm to the collector.
But then again, thing is, like for us, we run a shooting. Our reference collection is a working shooting collection. Like I would rather. Here's the thing: let's say these guns disappear, Joe Biden snaps his fingers. And somebody in his earpiece goes, ban imports of the alien, and so he says ban imports of the alien. I've got 2 options. I can buy one that is cherry mint that'll be listed as cherry mint prices on the secondary market, or I can buy one that's been used and maybe has some rounds through it. I'm gonna buy the used one because we're gonna want to shoot it. We do not buy guns.
We don't buy cherry mint collector guns.
Yeah, we do not buy any gun, or they come in sometimes if we buy them as part of a collection. But we do not buy any gun that if you rack the gun and it scratches it and you lose value, that gun leaves the armory as soon as possible. We sell it or trade it to somebody who needs it. So,
I mean, we do have some cherry guns. Like we have that SIG. What is it? The SIG. Is it the 5.56? Or no, it's the 5.50. That's like unfired.
Yeah, we have guns in the armory that we've never fired, and it's just because we haven't gotten around to firing. It's not like we're not going to fire.
Yeah, but that's my point. Even though we bought it and it was in cherry mint condition, that doesn't mean that it's going to stay that way, because when we get around to it, and we will eventually, that gun will be fired and it'll be used, and and I'm actually, to be honest with you, I'm actually looking forward to shooting it because I'm a SIG douche.
I would probably break my heart if I actually did an analysis of our inventory and actually categorize guns that we have never fired that we own, or guns that have actually are new in the box and never fired.
I don't want to.
It would be surprising.
I don't even want to see that video. Don't even do it.
Yeah.
Don't,
for example, I'm in the armory right now, and I'm looking at a Shiloh Sharps rifle, and I even did a video on it once. Just I was talking about it. I ordered this thing at SHOT Show when I was still working at the other place.
That gun took over a year to get in, and that's never been fired.
That gun took 18 months to get in.
And I can't believe we've never actually fired that gun.
I ordered that gun almost a decade ago.
Yeah.
And literally, like this year, part of me's like, you know what? Because I really want to fire this gun, and it's like maybe this year because with ammo I'll get some 45-70. But I mean, there's so many. You know, the point is, yeah. I mean, we have a ton of that stuff. Hey, I want to switch gears here real quick. So, did you guys see the video or the story that I sent you about the YouTuber that was shooting steel at 4 feet?
Dude, yes, I did. I'm like, holy crap. Okay, first off, I've never seen any of this douche nozzles videos. I mean, he's
Hold
a YouTuber.
on, let's be nice. Yeah, look, I'm gonna try to be nice. Look, it seems a little douchey, but you know, for all I know, he could be a prince of a man. He's 22, he's a kid, and you know, but I don't want to insult him.
He's a
he
kid.
Could listen to this podcast, so let's not be harsh on him.
No, okay, look, no, I mean, he shot a 50 BMG at 4 feet on steel. He's a douche nozzle. Okay, but he's a kid who I'm assuming is a successful YouTuber. I'm assuming that because, you know, I mean, he does. I mean, I've never seen any of his videos. I've not even seen the video he made where he got hit in the noggin.
The YouTuber in question, his name is Whistling. It's either Whistling or Whistling Diesel.
Okay. But look, he does crazy shit on YouTube. And you know what? That's awesome because I watch a lot of YouTube and I like watching guys that do crazy, stupid shit on YouTube. I do. I mean, I like watching those videos when I'm doing shit and it's playing in the background.
We're burying the lead here. So he shot the Whistling Diesel guy on YouTube, shot a piece of steel at 4 feet because he wanted to see how many pieces of steel this 50 was going to go through. But what happened to him? We haven't actually said it.
Oh, okay. Well, he shot the steel at 4 feet. And I believe it was the copper jacket of the. I don't think it was the full bullet that came back.
Oh no, it was. It looked like a piece of a piece hit him.
Yeah, but a piece of the copper jacket bounced back at him. And look, anyone who shoots short distances on the range knows that you can get hit by spalling. Hell, I've picked pieces of copper out of my arm at the in the pistol pit at the John 1911 range. Mm-hmm. You know, it happens. But he took a 50 cal jacket dead center into the forehead. And the picture that he posted, it looks brutal. But no skull fractures. I don't know. I don't recall if he said he did or did not have a concussion. But
he claims to have passed out from blood loss, which I'm like...
Well, no, it's not blood loss. He got hit with the bullet frag in the forehead, and, you know, any head wound bleeds like a son of a bitch anyway.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah, so all the blood was pouring out, and he freaked out, and he passed out because of that. It wasn't the blood loss. It was the he got hit in the forehead. He blood was pouring down his face. He passed out because of the blood. You know what? And I'm not even going to hold that against him because, I mean, goddamn, you know, you're shooting a 50 BMG, bam, you get hit in the forehead, knocked down, blood's all over the place. You know, you're thinking, oh, fuck, I'm dead. I mean, I get that.
What did he expect from that distance? I don't get it.
Look, again, I'm going to be nice here, and I'm trying not to be, but you're just going to be real here. He's 22 years old. He's dumber than hammered rock. I don't care if the kid's majoring in chemical engineering in college. He's 22, and there's a reason why we don't allow 22-year-olds to do things like be president. You know what I mean? Like, there's a reason why we do have like 22-year-olds. Like, you're 22. You know, like there's a reason why the Army has sergeants. Because of 22-year-olds and 19-year-olds, there's a reason. And this is a kid that's going through life that doesn't have a sergeant around him to keep him from doing something incredibly dumb. But I'm gonna add this. Look, you know, head wounds bleed profusely, And I looked at his picture, and I got to be honest with you. If you just remove the blood off of his head and look at the wound, I was like, dude, that's not fucking much of a wound. Shut up.
Oh, no.
Tell me your pussy hurts. It's like, stop.
Yeah, I know. I mean, obviously.
What is it, maybe 3 stitches? It's like, come on.
Now, you know what? It probably wasn't even 3 stitches, to be honest with you. I saw the little crater in his face. And honestly, yeah, slap a fucking Band-Aid on it and you roll on your way. I mean, seriously. I've had worse wounds on my body where I've used butterfly bandages to hold it up, where I probably could have used a couple of stitches, but you know what? I don't have time to spend 6 hours in the ER. You know what? Just throw a butterfly on it.
Here's the
and
thing:
you roll.
six hours in the ER on mommy and daddy's insurance.
Oh, well, see, I don't have mommy and daddy's
I know, because you're not a dumb 22-year-old that's going through life that needs a sergeant. You know, it's exactly. It's an interesting story, and it's one of those things.
But you know what, though? Here's the thing. What's his name? Whistling Dixie or whatever the hell is...
I think it's Whistling... I think it's Whistling Diesel. That's what I have written down. I don't know if it's a typo.
Okay, so Whistling Diesel.
Whistling Dixie.
Well, whatever, you know. Whistling Diesel learned a valuable life lesson, and I'm happy for him. Because when you do stupid shit, basically you have to understand that you may get stupid results. And he learned a very valuable lesson. Don't shoot a 50 BMG at steel at 4 fucking feet.
Okay, now hold on here. I'm not defending this kid because my argument still stands. This is somebody that would have been better served to join the military and learn some structure in his life. Again, he could be a fine person. I'm sure he is.
Yeah, you know what? I'm sure he's a great guy.
But let's have a real conversation here, because here's what's going on. I can't throw too many stones at this kid, and most people can't if you're listening to this podcast and you have ever watched a Demolition Ranch video. Because all this kid is Demolition Ranch 10 years ago. He's doing the same thing that Matt kid did on all of his videos that basically turned him into a rock star. And it's like a lot of these kids, they do stuff like this because it's the way to get the likes and, get the clicks. And it's like, that's part of the reason, like, we don't do this kind of stuff because we have a range and we have an armory and, I'm a performance-based shooter, like, I'm not interested in doing destructive testing. I'm not interested in like taking tannerite and blowing up pumpkins.
Yeah, you know what though? You bring up a valid point there because look, I've been watching Matt at Demolition Ranch. If you actually take the time to listen to our podcast, which I doubt he even does because we're nobody. I've been following Matt at Demolition Ranch for a decade.
You told me about YouTube and this kid and Mossbergs.
And when he was blowing up Mossberg barrels and creeks and shit, a decade ago. And I still watch his videos and I like him because he's fun. He's enjoyable. And I kind of feel, even though we've never met, I've never talked to him, kind of feel I have a bond with him just because I've watched hundreds of his videos.
Freeze's man crushing on Dr. Matt, I guess.
Well, Matt, if you're listening, I've got a man crush on you, buddy. No, seriously though.
I love you, man.
I love you, Matt. But seriously though.
Chicago Meat Packers.
No, we no, we're not going there. But the truth is,
stop it, Marky.
I agree with you, Marky. I do, because at the end of the day, if you're going to find someone to follow, you're going to follow like Matt at Demolition Ranch or Tal Flatermouse, who does all the crazy shit with shotgun shells and crap. Guys like, Whistling Dixie or whatever his name is.
Diesel.
I'm sorry, Whistling Diesel. He's going to mimic those guys. And unfortunately, I've never seen Matt take a 50 cal round to the face.
But who's the other guy? Iraq veteran 8888. those,
Heil Hitler.
very
Heil
early
Hitler,
in their
buddy.
career, it's a lot of this kind of stuff. And like, I mean, I can't look. We can sit here and say things. I can say things like, "Oh, this is dumb," or "This is retarded," or "This is whatever."
Yeah.
But the reality is, the market is the market, and I guarantee there's a good chance Whistling Diesel 2 years from now will be 10 times bigger than we are, because that's kind of what people actually want to watch, even if they don't want to admit it. And what someday you'll see an interview with Whistling Diesel, and he'll be talking about how successful he is on the internet. And they're going to be like, "Oh, what's the first time you had a video or you did something that actually went viral?" He's like, "Definitely when I shot myself with the 50."
And but you know what the sad thing is? When I read the blurb about Whistling Diesel shooting himself in the face. I really, I read it, but that was about, and it's like, okay, cool. But I probably, after this podcast is over, maybe not today or maybe not even tomorrow, but I probably will go onto YouTube and look him up and watch a couple of his videos. And I mean, after watching 2 or 3 of his videos, I'll either think, this guy's a chode and move on, or I'll be like, oh, you know what, this guy does cool shit, and I'll watch him because, hey,
You're going to be like a 14-year-old girl chasing after these pop stars. You're going to drop Matt like a bad habit, and you're going to be buying whistling Dixie shirts.
Look. Let me make it. Let me state this right off the bat. I'll never drop Matt.
I can't quit you, man. Or what's the line from that movie? The Brokeback Mountain. What is it? I can't quit you.
I've never seen Brokeback Mountain. So
I haven't seen it either. I've just seen the clips from that from on the internet.
Don't ask me.
But look.
Hold on. Okay. Now, let's get off Whistling Dixie here. I want it because Freeze has somewhere to be today, and I have a big thing I have going on here today. So a couple of things. I just want to throw Danny a couple bones here. We don't have to talk about it in great detail. So Liz Cheney is apparently fighting for her political life in Congress because she came out against Trump. She's been censured by is she in Wyoming or Montana, Wyoming?
Yes.
GOP. She's been censured, and she's apparently already going to be primaried. It also has come out that Senator Rob Portman from Ohio has announced that he is not going to run for re-election in 2022. He's a Republican as well. He hasn't done anything against Trump, but the reality is he's more of a Jeb Bush type. And here's what's interesting: a lot of people, there was a time when Senator Rob Portman was on the short list. He was on everybody's vice presidential short list, and maybe even thought maybe one day he might run for president. Obviously, that ship has sailed because the party is changing, and it's interesting that he has decided he's going to hang it up and get out, and so his seat will come up probably. I would imagine go to Jim Jordan maybe from Ohio because he's real popular. So
I'd take that bet that it will be Jordan also get the nod.
I totally agree with you.
But I'm going to go ahead. I'm saying those two to give. I want Danny to. I'm going to give this to you as a gift, Danny. You're just not even going to believe I'm saying this. So in 2020, the year of the pandemic, the year of the mail-in balloting, the year of existential crisis and emergency provisions, and oh my God, we got to do this because of that and all that, right? Amazon, the company, Jeff Bezos, Amazon corporate, they're fighting. There's a large movement.
There's unionization.
Let me get it out.
Okay.
People are trying to listen. We can't talk over each other. There is a large movement inside of Amazon to try to unionize all of these warehouse workers, and there's a metric shit ton of these people. And so, I don't know what union is doing this, but you generally have to take a vote, and we vote union or we don't vote union. I don't know how it all works exactly, but apparently, Danny, Amazon has come out and they have said to preserve the integrity of the union vote on this issue, they do not want mail-in balloting for the voting union at Amazon. They want people to do it in person.
Well,
I love
that's
that.
okay. That's very simple. There are 9 Amazon warehouses in my general area, and I know quite a few people that work there. I would be inclined to think that Amazon's reason for that is because all the people I know that work there say there are 10,000 cameras on you a day. Everybody that would come in to vote, they would see who is voting,
Well, you could vote
possibly even
for it or
how they're
vote.
voting.
Well, but ideally, I mean, the secret ballot. Well, see, that's always been a
Yeah.
problem with union voting. Is the whole idea of a secret ballot is, like if
Yeah,
you work
sign
at
your name here.
yeah, you work at Amazon and you're like, I don't want to, because Volkswagen went through this recently here in the U.S. But like, hey, yeah, guys, I'm with you, whatever. But privately, you're like, yeah, fuck you, commies, and you go in there and you vote against it. And the reality is, your vote's more important than your words, and it gives you the freedom to make a decision. Like I don't look, I don't know about them worrying about cameras or whatever, but I've always heard that probably most of the people that work at Amazon probably want to be unionized.
Yeah, I personally know 10 people that have worked at Amazon. And I mean, these are not lazy pieces of shit either. None of them have lasted more than 6 months because of the working conditions.
Right.
And that's locally here in the Cincinnati area.
Yeah, there's an
So,
Amazon warehouse or something down by the airport.
well, there's one in Hebron, Kentucky. There's one here in Cincinnati. I mean,
That's the
there
only. I mean, the only Amazon I know is down by the airport.
there's one here in Cincinnati as well, because Amazon doesn't like if you're in Cincinnati, your shit's going to ship from Hebron, not from the Cincinnati terminal, and it's a tax thing, state to state. But anyway, my point is, um, the working conditions at Amazon here in Cincinnati, or in the Cincinnati area, I should say. I'm not going to say it's everywhere, but locally, from what I know from people that have actually worked there, the working conditions are actually pretty terrible. Now, with that being said, Amazon, didn't they support the whole mail in ballot thing
Of
for
course they
the
did. I think
presidential
Jeff
election?
Bezos,
Yes,
Jeff
they
Yes.
did.
Bezos donated
Yeah.
money to all these causes.
Absolutely. So, but now when Bezos is faced with a union vote, and that's going to cost him big fucking bucks. It's like, whoa, wait a minute now. This mail-in ballot thing is kind of bullshit. So, you know what? I hope they win. I hope they unionize, and I hope Jeff Bezos, or was it Jeff Bezos?
Yes,
Is
Jeff.
that his name? Yeah. I hope Jeff Bezos loses a couple of $1 billion over it, because screw him, you communist fuck.
I'm still inclined to believe they want to identify the people somehow on this. That's just my theory.
It's
Well,
possible.
yeah, it is possible. But Danny, you are the conspiracy theorist of the group, so
That's right. Wait, freeze. Let's get my
oh,
title correct. The in-house conspiracy
Okay, a
theorist.
couple of things because we do
I'm
have to
sorry.
wrap this up because they are going long, but I want to get these in quick, so we're kind of hit it fast. So, number one, Danny, your job as chief political correspondent may be in jeopardy because you might have some competition.
Uh-oh.
Um,
Really?
the political editor at Fox News, Chris Stierwalt, was fired last week,
Uh-oh.
which is
Shit.
a huge deal.
Are you trying to, Marky? Are you warning me that you're going to renegotiate my contract?
Fox News is obviously in a big downturn, and they announced like layoff of 16 people. And Chris Stierwalt, he's their political editor. He ran their decision desk on the night of the election.
Oh, he's the
He's
one that called Arizona, isn't he?
Yeah, he did.
Okay.
He runs that, and he's run it for a while. Look, Chris Stierwalt is a very smart guy, and I like him. People claim he's a Democrat. He could be. I don't really know. But he's out, and actually Bill Salmon, who's the boss of the Fox News Washington office, he quote retired. And so with Bill Salmon being out, and Ailes gone, that's really the last of the big name people that like were there when Fox was like, was unbeatable. Like
The old man's holdovers.
yeah, I mean seriously, like Salmon being gone, then like that's a big deal. But like no one's really paying attention to Stierwalt or Salmon being out. But I want to go. I've been wanting to tell you that. So two things I want to cover today. We're not going to end on the crime story. We're going to end on a pop culture story because it goes into a conspiracy theory that Danny's going to totally buy into. I'm going to give you the.
Thank you for the words of encouragement.
I'm going to. I love you. I love you, man.
I'm not going to leave you.
So there's a couple prisons in the metro Cincinnati, Southern Ohio area called. I think one. Freeze, help me out here. Is it Lebanon Correctional Institute and Warren Correctional?
Lebanon Correctional Institute and Warren County. It's Warren. I think it's Warren County Correctional Institute. Lebanon Correctional Institute is up by like. Do you remember the old company SOG, Southern Ohio Guns?
Yeah.
They're like literally like 5 miles away from like where SOG was located.
Yeah, so there's two prisons up there, and I think they're state prisons. I don't think they're county. They're prisons.
No, they're state prisons.
Yeah, so,
Lebanon.
but
yes.
So here's the story, but we're not gonna. This isn't gonna what we're gonna end on. Some men were arrested because they were using a drone to smuggle drugs into one of their buddies inside of one of these jails up there in Warren County, I guess last week or something. And so, it's interesting. Like I wonder if you're going to start seeing like drone nets and stuff above like the yards in some of these prisons.
But you know what amazes me about this, about that story is why, I mean, look, as well as I do, thieves, drug dealers, con artists, bad guys in general, they're usually in front of the curve. They're innovative as hell. They're always thinking of crazy things to circumvent the law. Why have we not heard about drone drops of drugs in prisons prior to this?
Oh, there have been. There's been a fair amount. There's been drone drops of drugs, drone drops of cell phones. There have been drone recon for people trying to break out of jails, but they don't talk about it too much, but we just don't cover it here. But this one was kind of local and I thought it was interesting. Now let me go ahead and give everybody a story that was in Fox News and all the major news outlets. Then we got it because I literally have to be somewhere in 13 minutes. But a story that was covered, but it wasn't covered correctly.
Okay.
So, and this is going to sound like something that you, the listener at home, are not interested in, but bear with me, you are. So there was a headline this week. The CEO of the Apollo Financial Services Company named Jeffery Black, okay, he's a multi-billionaire dude, and it announced that he was going to step down as CEO of this big-ass company because of suppose they were like, well, because of ties to, he had larger ties than previously disclosed to Jeffrey Epstein. Okay.
Oh,
so
really?
Danny, perk up here because this one's interesting. So, okay, you're like,
I'm on board. Go ahead.
It's like, why, people's like, why the fuck is this on a John Knight Lemon podcast? Bear with me. This is an example of how you have to read the headlines. So, the CEO of this company, Jeffrey Black, Jeffrey Black, and I've heard of him. He decided he's 70. He's announced he's going to step down. Like it's a stage process, whatever. But it came out like this Jeffrey Epstein stuff's been coming out. I guess it supposedly this CEO had some kind of tangential relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, and it's like, oh no. So what they did is, the board and everybody else, the appearance of impropriety, they hired an outside law firm to do an internal investigation. Very similar to what they did at Fox News about the allegations of all the hanky-panky going on over there at Fox News that blew everything up. So this law firm comes in, and they're like, we're getting everything, and it's like, yeah, it looks like Mr. Black hired Jeffrey Epstein for some estate planning and some other stuff for taxes, and and looks like it. He really did do some stuff for Mr. Black, and Mr. Black's a billionaire, has access to all these people, and it's a financial services company, but he's using Jeffrey Epstein for this private stuff, and but the law firm's like it all looks legitimate. It's like they can even prove where it looks like Jeffrey Epstein saved Mr. Black a ton of money, like it could be a couple $1 billion over like a couple year period, and you're like, well. But the connections are bigger than what they thought, and people don't like it. And so, you know what? He's getting older. Mr. Black's going to retire. And you're like, why is this a story? Like, why is this, like, what's going on here? Like, he was exonerated. There's a law firm. Like, what I don't understand. Why is this a story? What's going on here? This is a story with a headline that is buried in the story. So, Danny.
Yes.
Ask me. Take a guess. Mr. Jeffrey Black, who has hired Jeffrey Epstein to do financial stuff for him, how much money, like in services and fees, Jeffrey Epstein, this is a business. He supposedly is this, he's a consultant, he's a financial guy, he's a smart guy. And so, people pay him to manage some of their money, right?
Correct.
How much money do you think Jeffrey Black, the CEO of Apollo, gave Jeffrey Epstein over the course of their quote business relationship? Take a guess. Give me a monetary amount.
Give
me a good one. Go ahead.
$27 million.
$27 million. Freeze, would you like to get in on the over under of the Jeffrey?
Hell no. No.
Okay.
I have no clue. No, I do not even want to get involved.
I am going to teach the listener. This is an example of critical thinking and thinking for yourself and reading a story and reading the real headline and not what the headline actually is. Because the reason Jeffrey Black is leaving Apollo, and it's even given in the story, is, well, it's all legitimate, but also we have figured out that his connections with Mr. Epstein were much larger than what we previously thought, and so reasons, right?
Yeah. And
it's like, well, the audit says that Mr. Black gave Jeffrey Epstein $148 million in fees plus $10 million to charity.
Oh, fuck. Really?
So hold on. Here's the real story here. You read that story, and you know about Jeffrey Epstein, and then there's a board, and they've hired an outside law firm. Like, this is all a big mess. Like, this is already a big story. Like, there's stuff going on here, okay? Like this law firm didn't come in, like, for nothing and, like, go through everybody's emails and go through all this forensic accounting and all these interviews. Like, this is a big freaking deal. And they're like, oh, it turns out like, it's all legitimate, but it's bigger than what we thought. My guess is that Jeffrey Black's wife is probably looking at the story and looking at Jeffrey going, why the fuck are you giving Jeffrey Epstein $158 million in total of our fucking money, asshole? And he's like, I quit. There's the real story.
Yeah.
That's the real story.
I have a theory too.
Yeah, we all do. I bet you Mrs. Black has one hell of a theory. It's like, Yeah. Like, that's the real story. But that's not the way the headline's written. But it's like, what the hell? And it's like, it's creepy stuff like this. It's creepy stuff like this that gives a lot of the crazy conspiracy theories purchase for those to to buy into. But we got to go because I got 7 minutes. So this wraps up episode 202 of the John 1911 podcast. If you want to see any stories or pictures of links of anything we discuss, please go to our website at john1911.com. That's JOHN1911.com. Remember, it's all about shooting guns and having fun and paying off your pedophile pimps. Everybody, have a good day.
Hey, see you guys later.
Bye-bye.